Hello and welcome to today's video where I will talk about services, and this will be part 1 out of 3. So we'll have a series of 3 videos in which I will try to present things as easy as I can so you better understand services and how to use them. We will start by talking about started services. This will run in the main thread, and we will begin by blocking the user interface. So you see what happens when you try to perform some processor-intensive or time-consuming task in a service that by default runs in the main thread. Then we will create a background service that will run the code in its own thread. And in the last video, we'll talk about locally bound services. This is the application that we will build. It looks similar to the one that we've created for threads when we talked about starting and stopping a thread and how to work with background threads. With the services, it's pretty much the same application. However, the difference is that a service will run in background. It doesn't need any user interface. We can implement some code over there that doesn't need to interact directly with the user in the form of a user interface. And we'll keep this very, very simple appearance with 3 buttons and a text view. When you will click on this button, the user interface will respond. It will show you that it's still active by incrementing a counter and displaying it here inside this button. Then you have a text view that will display the status of the service, whether it's started or stopped. And then you have the 2 buttons that allow you to start and to stop the service. And we will go step by step through each method to see how the service responds and what happens under the hood. But again, I repeat, it will be kept very, very simple because I know this service is not a topic which is very, very popular. Okay, so let's go to Android Studio and see what the code looks like and what it actually does. We will start, as always, by opening Android Studio. And to save a bit of time, I already have an empty project opened. So this is an empty activity for a phone and tablet. And as you can see, I only have the activity main XML file and the main activity Java file. We will start by constructing the user interface. And for this, I will just go quickly over it and I will construct the UI, and then I will explain what I've done. What I've done until this point is just to take the constraint layout and declare a margin of 16 dp. And you do this from the attributes here on the right side. Then for the text view, I've just changed the text. So it will say service status, and this will be changed throughout the program to reflect if the service is started or stopped or whatever state the service is in. Then you have the start and the stop buttons. And these buttons will obviously start and stop the service. And for each button, I've declared an onClick name for a method, as you can see, onClick start or stop or count. And this method will be executed when the button is clicked. So instead of implementing an onClick listener, I just indicate the name of the method, and then I will implement the method in the main activity Java file. So one more thing, I can just go for this button and change its attribute in such a way as to stretch a bit. Okay, something like this. And I can stretch these 2 buttons as well. Okay, this is our user interface. We can save everything. Don't worry for this red exclamation marks. This just tells us that we didn't implement the onClick method, but we will in a moment. So going to the main activity Java file, let's start with some variables. What I've done until this point, I've declared the variables that we're going to use to reference the text view. So I called it TV from text view status, and for the button, btn count for the one that's going to help us count, to prove that the user interface is active and not frozen. So this is why I declared this button, because I will need to access its text. So I will need to use the setText method. It's a view after all. So this is why I need to find it by ID. For the other two buttons, I don't need this because I only need to implement the method. So let's go for the two buttons and implement the methods. This is the first method that we have implemented, and this is the one that will count how many times we click on the button and display this in the text of the button. I've declared this variable, obviously, and then just incremented and displayed on the text on the button. So this is the first method, two more to go. As you can see, until this point, all the methods that are associated with the buttons have been implemented. However, we don't actually do anything at this time here inside this start and stop methods. However, if you can look over here, we should have no more errors. So the errors have gone. What we actually need to do right now, we need to implement the code associated with the service and then start and stop that particular service. And for this, you go to the project tab over here and you see your package name. So this should be under Java. You might have the Android view or you might have the project view. It depends, but just to make it easy, go for the Android view. It's simplified. And then you find your package under Java. Under app, you right click on the package name and you say new. Then you go for a service, and this will be a simple service. I leave everything as it is with the same stock or default name, my service. And this exported and enabled, these are some attributes of the service. You can just leave them. You will find them entered in the manifest file. I'll show you in a moment. So the service has been created. Let's go and open the manifest file. And you can see over here, the service has been entered into our manifest. If the service is not listed here, then you will not be able to use it. So just to be safe, have a look over here, open the manifest file and make sure it is here. Okay, coming back to the service, when you create it automatically, this is what you will have. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So these are your import section and you have your class which extends service. So my service extends service, and you have this onBind method being implemented by default, and you should leave it as such, because all the services, even if they're just simple started services and not bounded services, they will still have to implement this method. Only in our case, this will have no code, they will not do anything at all. However, if you use a different type of service, the bounded service, then you will implement some code over here. But for this simple example, what we have to do, we have to implement several methods, and this will be generated automatically. You right click, you go to generate, and then you go override methods, and you will select, you can hold the control key if you're on a Windows computer, and you have the on create, then on start command, on destroy, and you select on task removed. So these four you will select, and then you just click OK. The necessary code has been automatically generated, and then we'll go one by one through each of these methods, and then we'll change the code as required. We'll just add a log, and for this you just type log, and then you select log t. So this tag is automatically created. And then let's go inside the on create. And over here, you'll say log again. However, this time your log, you will select, for example, log I for info. And then what I will do, I will just change the text a little bit, and I will just say inside service on create. Then inside on start command, you will just create another log. Here, you can change the return type. So this will return start non-sticky. And you do the same over here for the on destroy. You create another log. And last, you go to on task remove and create a log here as well. The point is, we will use these logs to monitor how the program is executed. So what the application does. We'll just go here in the main activity, and we will create an intent to start the service. And this will be something like just to save a bit of time, I've written the entire code, and now I will explain what it does. So for the start or on-click start method, we begin by changing the text view, and this text view will have something new being displayed. This time it will say service started. When we click the stop, it will say service stopped. The next thing, we create an intent, and this intent will take the current context, so the package context, and the my service class, which will be executed. So this is our service, and we just started the service passing this intent. When we stop the service, we do the same steps, only this time we stop the service. Keep in mind that any service that you start with start service, you will need to close it at one point. So for this, you can either use a stop service method, or you can use the self-stop, which will be placed inside the service itself, but we will do it in just a moment. For now, let's start the service and see what it does. For this, you just choose your virtual device and then you click run. As you can see, the application is now loaded in the emulator. I will just zoom in a bit and I will open this tab over here, the run tab. Okay, let's start by testing the user interface. As you can see, every time I click, this will increment over here. So the user interface is responding. However, the service is not yet started. So if I press start service, you can see that we've been inside the onCreate method and onStart command of the service. So onCreated, we've been here, and then we've been here. So the service is now started. It doesn't do anything because we didn't implement any code for it to do. However, it just stays there, it's started. The only problem is that right now we can't leave the service running and not doing anything forever. We need to stop it at some time. So what we do, we press the stop button and it says service on destroy. So we've been here. Let's say we start the service again. You can see the button is still active, and this time we want to, I don't know, do something else, and we just swipe away the app. So right now you can see that we've been inside the on task removed over here. However, we didn't go through the on destroy method. So we didn't destroy the service. We've been here inside the on task remove. So what we want to do, actually what I should do, I should close some of the previously opened apps. All right. So I can close the emulator and I can modify the code here where it says on task remove, and I will just say stop self. Okay, when the code will execute this instruction over here, it will actually jump to the on destroy method and destroy the service. So let's repeat this. And as you can see, the application has started again. We can test the user interface and we started the service. We are told that the service has started. And as you can see here, we went through the onCreate methods and onStart command. So again, we're here. We're not actually doing anything, but we're here. This time, instead of stopping the service by pressing the button, I can just swipe it away. Let me try this again. And as you can see, we've been to the on task removed and we were directed to the on destroy. Okay, so this is how we dealt with the service. We started, we stopped the service. However, we didn't do anything. The next thing I want to show you is what really happens if we try to implement some task to be performed while the service has been started. And what I will demonstrate with this is that every service that you start, it will normally start from or actually normally run in the user interface thread, in the main thread. And this causes a lot of problems if the task that you are performing in this service will take a lot of time and risks of blocking the user interface. And we'll deliberately block it right now. Inside this for loop, I've placed the thread sleep, and this will throw an exception. So you need to surround it with a try catch. And for us to have an idea of what's happening, I will just move this tag over here and add the steps which are taken. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever step it's on. We save this and we try to run again the app. So this time we can check the user interface and it responds. We can start the thread. And as you can see, it's counting. And then if I try to press the user interface again, it's not responding. I pressed it 2 times, it's done nothing. Now it has been updated, as you can see. If I start the thread again, actually the service which runs on the main thread, I can press 1, 2, nothing happens. When the service finishes its task, you can see the user interface has been updated. Obviously, this is a problem. And the solution for this will be to move the action to be performed inside the service in a different thread, in its own thread. Now, this will be the topic of the next video. So I will save everything. And in the next video, I will take it from here and I will move this part in a different thread. And then I'll show you what happens when you move this to a different thread and how everything becomes way easier. Okay, so until we meet in the next video to show you how we can take this example further, keep practicing, take care, and see you next time.